Welcome back to the Unfortunate Diehards podcast. Hashtag number 77. Frank Vetrano. Fun fact.
TJ Oshie.
The
Don't be a
reason
hoe.
I like to wear number 72 because he wore it on Boston and I thought it looked really good.
You know, everyone
Servants.
always picks a Sens player out of his ass out of nowhere for these, but whenever there's a good Leafs or Caps player, he never says them.
Yep. You're welcome.
It's
I think
called.
I must have used Ovechkin. Or maybe Frank Finnegan.
I don't know. You didn't use a Ovechkin, bro.
Anyways, my name is Evan. I'm an Ottawa Senators fan.
I'm Omar, the Leafs fan.
I'm Sufjan. I'm a Caps fan.
And before we get started, we have some news. We have an official sponsor. Before we go any further, though, I'd like to introduce our new sponsor, Carlington Booch. It is an Ottawa-based kombucha brewing company, so it is owned and run out of Ottawa, and so it's a kombucha-based company that 100% of the profits go back to charities across Ottawa to help people get off the streets and sober, and gives a lot of the volunteers and work that goes into it are people trying to kind of stabilize their life, get more organization, and kind of job security and better their future. So we'd like to thank them for supplying us with some kombucha, and feel free to check them out at carlingtonbooch.ca and get yourself some delicious kombucha. I personally like the blueberry one the best, and it's for really, really great cause, and it's really, really delicious. I've tried other kombuchas, and genuinely, it's not as good.
Fair enough.
Kombucha.
That was gross.
And it promotes gut health, so it helps with digestion as well.
Well,
I had kombucha once in my life, and that was it was okay.
Well, when you try this, Omar, you'll be raving about it.
Yes, I'm excited to try this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll get you guys to send me over some, assuming Omar likes it.
Absolutely. Well, we can ship it globally.
Well, there we go.
Not now.
Oh, yeah, damn. Okay. All right, let's move on. Omar, you got our standings update this week.
Yes, I do. So, all right, so the standings this week look like this. The Atlantic Division, we've got the Toronto Maple Leafs in first place, the Florida Panthers in second, the Boston Bruins in third. In the Metro, we've got the Devils in first place, the Capitals in second place, and the Hurricanes in third. And then we have the New York Rangers and the Philadelphia Flyers in the first and second wildcard spots. In the Western Conference, we've got the Minnesota Wild in the Central, Winnipeg second, and Dallas third. And then in the Pacific, we've got the Vegas Golden Knights first, the Los Angeles Kings second, the Vancouver Canucks third, and then the wildcard teams are the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames in first and second. Filling out the rest of the Eastern Conference after our wildcards are the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Buffalo Sabres, the New York Islanders, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Detroit Red Wings, the Ottawa Senators,
Woo!
and finally the Montreal Canadiens in the Eastern Conference. And in the West, after Edmonton and Calgary, in the wild card, we have Colorado, St. Louis, Utah Hockey Club, Anaheim Ducks, surprisingly higher than I thought, Seattle Kraken, San Jose Sharks, Nashville Predators, and the Chicago Blackhawks.
Very nice. Not much change from last week. I was very annoyed, though. The Devils have like 3 games in hand on the Caps.
So I think
they just
4, actually.
I don't know what it is, but like after we beat
Yeah,
them,
4 games in hand. No, that was not 4
insane.
games. The Caps have 4 games in hand on the Devils.
Yeah, they have 4 games in hand on them. We passed them in the standings when we beat them on Saturday, and then somehow the Devils played another game and won that one. I was so annoyed. So we do have the highest win percentage in the Eastern Conference, though, so I'll take that.
Yeah, the Leafs have 1 game in hand over the Panthers, and they're 1 point ahead. So I think the Panthers and Leafs are gonna keep switching back and forth.
The Panthers had a bit of a rough.
They had a bit of a rough patch for a couple of weeks, but they're back at it now.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to our standout performance for the last week. We can start with the divisions we don't really care about. We'll start with the Central. Who's your standout for the last week, Evan?
My standout is someone who hadn't scored a goal before last week, but has almost 20 assists, but in this past week has scored 3 goals. So Nick Schmaltz of the Utah Hockey Club is finally putting the puck in the back of the net, and he's my stand-up performer.
I might be talking about him later, to be honest. My Central Division standout is Philip Gustafson. I mean, he's kind of taken over as starter in Minnesota. Didn't really have much competition to begin with, but like there hasn't been real emergence of Wallstedt or Fleury hasn't been playing amazing. But Gustafson in the last week had a 1.67 GAA and a 9.49 save percentage with a shutout, and he had 92 saves on 97 shots. He is playing out of his mind right now. Omer?
I'm going for Central Ryan Donato. He's one of the brighter spots, I guess, for the Blackhawks in an otherwise pretty dismal season, even in where Bedard's struggling. But he surprisingly picked up, I think, 15, 16 points something in 20-something games. So, he's been a good story, so I'm going to go with him.
Fair enough. Evan, your Pacific Division standout for the last week.
Thank you for asking. Speaking of my fantasy hockey team, not only was Ryan Donato on them, but so is Quinn Hughes, who had a goal and 8 assists this past week. Yeah, that's correct. 8 assists, is now the all-time defense leader in assists for the Vancouver Canucks in history. And go Nucks.
Yeah, he's crazy. He's already the best defenseman in Canucks history in his mid-20s.
Yeah.
My standout for the Pacific Division is San Jose has had pretty consistent production from Celebrini throughout the season. Like when he came back from injury, he kind of just picked up where he left off in his first game. But the other rookie, Will Smith, kind of struggled when Celebrini was out. But this past week, he really broke out with 7 points in 4 games, 3 goals, 4 assists. I think he's going to be one of the better rookies going forward. And it was good to see him. Like San Jose has scored I think 22 goals in the last 4 games or something like that, and he's been a big part of that. Omer?
For me, it's Jake DeBrusk. I think he's really playing well in Vancouver. He's at 19 points on the season. This last week, in 4 games, he got 5 goals and an assist or something. So he has 6 points in 4 games.
He had a hat trick. He had a hat trick.
Yeah. So Jake DeBrusk for me. I think he's playing great.
I don't know if it was the OT winner he scored as a toe drag release. It was nuts. He's been playing insane.
That was the hat trick goal.
Yeah, he's been playing insane. Metro Division, Evan?
Well, speaking of Quinn Hughes, his little brother, not Luke, the other one, the TikTok dancer, Dak Hughes, he looks like a TikTok boy, also had a really good week, having 5 points, I believe, throughout the week, and had 3 points yesterday, and is just, leading that team, along with Nico Hischier and Dougie Hamilton, to a spot above the Washington Capitals.
Tell me if you keep mentioning where the Sens are in the standings. My standout for the week for Metro is Jacob Chychrun. I will keep talking about him until he slows down, and he hasn't yet. So 3 goals, 4 assists in 4 games, and an OT winner in that as well, and he's absolutely ripping the puck right now. Omer?
For Metro, I'm going to go Jesper Bratt.
Fair enough.
Jesper Bratt. 7 points in 4 games. New Jersey is firing on all cylinders there. So, there you go.
Bratt was a weird one because against the Caps, it looked like he couldn't even handle a pass. And then still managed to score, and then the next game he had 4 points. And
he didn't do anything against Caps?
He kept receiving passes from Hughes, and they would just pop off of his stick, or he'd just lose the puck and fall over. And then the next game, he looked absolutely insane. But he's top 5 in the league in scoring, so he's doing something right. Evan, Atlantic Division.
My Atlantic Division pick was challenging DeBrusk in that overtime loss for Detroit. It is Lucas Raymond. I think he's been quietly having a nice past few weeks, and we've had a couple either overtime winners or late game winners and stuff recently as well, and had those goals last season really late against Montreal to try to squeak in, but didn't. But seems to be quite a clutch player, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, he's done that last couple of years. Speaking of Montreal, my standout for the week is Cole Caulfield, 4 goals, 2 assists in 4 games. I think everyone was kind of anticipating a breakout before it actually happened for him, but this year he's looking like he has the chance to hit 50 goals, and kind of hard to say that he won't at this point. So, Omer?
I'm going to go Mitch Marner. He's been great, especially in the month of November. In the last week, I think he has 5 points or so in 3 games. Leafs haven't played much in the last 2 weeks of November, but in whatever they've played, he's been huge, especially when Matthews was out. He was massive. Really showed his importance in terms of a contract anyway, and this with Matthews gone, how much he was able to lead the team. But yeah, with Matt Marner.
Matt Marner?
Mitch Marner. Did I say Matt Marner?
Yes. He's been the Leafs' most consistent player this year. I'll give you that. All right. Let's move on to our big storyline for this week is going to be the Four Nations rosters. They're coming out tomorrow, so hopefully, Omer, you can get this out in time. But
yeah.
I don't know where we want to start. We could start with the discussion-heavy stuff with Canada-US, or we can just go right through the Finnish and Sweden teams, do a little discussion.
Let's build up to Canada-US. Let's start from the other ones.
All right. Well, let's start off with probably the worst team. I mean, definitely the worst team. And we'll start with Finland. Omer, you can go first for this one. So what we'll do, Omer, say your forwards. Well, let's say I'll go second. I'll say my forwards. Evan, you say your forwards with defense, goalies after that, and then we'll talk for a little bit. Okay?
All right. So for forwards, for the Finnish team, I have picked Arturi Lehkonen, Alexander Barkov, Mikko Rantanen, Roope Hintz, Sebastian Aho, Patrick Laine, Teuvo Teravainen, Anton Lundell, Michael Granlund, Lusterainen. I can't remember what's his first name again.
E2.
E2 Lusterainen, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Capo Kakko, and my extras are Machelli and Eric Haula.
All right. My first line would be Lehkonen, Barkov, Rantanen. My second line would be former World Juniors teammates, absolutely lit up in the World Juniors, Laine and Aho, playing with Roope Hintz. Third line would be Teravainen, Lundell, and Granlund. And then Haula, Kotkaniemi, and Kakko as the fourth line, but I mean, that could be interchangeable with Machelli and Tolvanen as my extras. Evan?
Mine are Lehkonen, Barkov, Rantanen, Teravainen, Aho, Tolvanen, Granlund, Hintz, Kakko, Armia, Lundell, Haula, with Kotkaniemi being the extra.
All right, let's move on to this. This is probably the most fun part of the segment, the Finnish defense. Omer?
All right, I've got, as a first pair, I've got Miro Heiskanen and Lindell. I've got Mikkola and Hakanpää. For a second, I've got Marta and Yoki Haru. And then my extra is Välimäki.
Amazing. For me, Heiskanen, Lindell, first pair. Mikkola, Yoki Haru as the second pair. Mata and Ristolainen as a third pair. And Välimäki as the extra, but I think he's interchangeable with Mata.
I have Heiskanen, Lindell, Mikkola, Välimäki, Mata, and Ristolainen with an extra of Yoki Haru.
Okay, we all have the same goalies, so they're Saros, Luukkonen, and Lankinen. I think so. Omer, you can say your starter, but I'm pretty sure we all have the exact same starter. It's
Saros.
Cut and dry. I have Saros as well. Evan, do you have a surprise Lankinen starting there?
I do have Saros starting, but I do actually think the backup position is kind of interchangeable. I think UPL has had obviously more extended success, but Lankinen has had a really, really strong season this year. And like recency bias does matter for goalies because goalies are so hot and cold sometimes. So it's kind of interesting if Saros has a couple bad games who they put in.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like other teams, I could see them switching their goalies around. I don't really see Finland straying off Saros unless he has like 2 horrible games.
Which could happen if you're playing against McDavid, McKinnon, and.
But then is it really his fault at the end of the day?
No, but if he's letting in like 5 goals on like 12 shots or something.
Yeah. Okay, some interesting things. I think Laine is the biggest point of contention here. For me, there was 2 things. Finland doesn't really have the depth to leave him off the roster, regardless of whether he's played this year or not. And his experience playing with Aho. Like, I'm pretty sure they won the World Juniors together. And they were absolutely nasty on a line together. So I think just the familiarity there kind of just brings Laine into the lineup regardless of whether I'm playing or not this season.
Yeah, so I originally had Laine off my team. I actually kind of forgot about him because just he's not been playing, so he's not been in my mind. But then Sophie reminded me of him, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I can leave him off. Although everyone left him off, so I guess I could have. But I was like, no, I don't think I can leave Laine off because if he's back, I think he's going to make the team, despite not having played all season.
It's just the lack of other options. Like,
yeah, and just like even if it's just to plug him on your power play because like you need someone who can shoot like that. So I think he's kind of vital for them because they don't have anyone who can kind of score like him. Well,
that's a lie.
Sorry, that's not. So yeah, they have guys, yes, but like the expertise he brings on like the power play and stuff. If you set him up right, like I think it's kind of like that Ovechkin value on a power play with Laine. If he's so
yeah. But it's also compared to other teams. Like, yes, they have Barkov, Rantanen, and Aho, Laine, like, and Hintz, and that's insane.
Yeah.
But that's still, like, compared to Canada, US, even Sweden to an extent, like, there's just a lack of depth there. So that's why I think Laine. So let's say, okay, we'll do strength, concern, and X factor for Finland. Omer, you want to talk?
The strength. I mean, I want to say that Finland's strength. Like they have some high-end forward talent. If Saros is on his game, he can be their strength, especially in a year when Canada doesn't have like that kind of Carey Price or Luongo or Brodeur. I think if Saros is like the UC Saros, he can be. I think goaltending could really be the Finnish strength because, like, despite what they have up front, they are outmatched by Canada and the US and Sweden. So. I would say goaltending if Saros is there, because this is the one year that Canada's goaltending is not the best for sure.
Yeah. Strength-wise, I would say, like, so I would say that they have arguably a top 5 player at every position. Barkov, it's a point of contention because there's a bunch of centers that are kind of in that 3 to 7 range. So let's say top 10 for centers. They have a top 5 winger in Rantanen. They have a top 5, arguably top 5 defenseman in Heiskanen, and then arguably a top 5 goalie in Saros. At worst, top 10 for each of those. So if those guys perform to how well they can perform, I think it's kind of their saving grace at this point because they're going to have a tough time against the other 3 teams. Evan?
I think their strength is at center. I mean, a core of Barkov, Aho, Hintz, and then like Lundell or something, like whatever kind of matchup they have other centers that can swap in and out there too. Those are also guys that are responsible two-way, so it's not even a sense of like, yes, McDavid is this like all gifted offensive player, or other teams having that too. They just have really, really strong players and that play full games, very European style of play, and so for that could be a really strong suit. Like, not saying other teams don't have good centers, because they all do, because it's the best teams, but just like very impressive, responsible players, I think that could make a big difference in them winning some games. Defense is obviously the weak point, I believe, because, while they do have a high-end defenseman, a lot of the other ones aren't guys that are necessarily top pairing guys on any NHL team, where, most of the guys on the rest of the teams are guys who are playing top minutes for each and every one of their teams. So it'll definitely be a test for them in the defensive zone, but you never know. Like, Saros is a really good goalie, and they have good centers, and people like Rantanen and Laine, if he makes it, who shoot, like, have some of the best shots in the world, and if they just get hot and get lucky, then I think they could win some games.
Okay, Evan kind of highlighted his weakness there already, although I'm pretty sure me and Omar would kind of agree with defense being the weak point outside of Heiskanen. I mean, Lindell's really good too.
Yeah,
but
I feel like this is not like we have to go that deep into the Finland one, because
the
exact same answers. So
so I mean, I'll just say I think X factor wise too, it's pretty much just Saros. Like, this team kind of lives or dies by how well he plays. Because if they have to put in one of those two backups, then it's pretty much game over at that point with that decor. Any decor with Rasmus Ristolainen on it potentially getting minutes is going to have a tough time.
I was going to say, I don't know how you could rate a defensive core when Ristolainen is picked for your team, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I left him off my roster, by the way. You guys left him. I mean, he's going to get picked, I think, in reality, but I left him off.
All right, let's move on to Sweden. Evan, you want to start this one? With the forwards?
yes. So, let me just pull it up. My Sweden forward group is Jesper Bratt, Elias Pettersson, William Nylander, Adrian Kempe, Mika Zibanejad, Philip Forsberg, Lucas Raymond, Eriksson Ek, and Nyquist, Eklund, Backlund, and Elias Lindholm. My extra forward is William Karlsson for me.
Yeah. Okay.
And Devin.
All right, Omer, what's your Sweden forward core?
All right, I've got Forsberg, Pettersson, Nylander, Kempe, Zibanejad, Bratt, Eklund, Eriksson Ek, Raymond, Raquel, Carlson, Zetterlund, and then my extra is Leo Carlson.
Fair enough. I got Pettersson in between Nylander and Forsberg, Zibanejad centering Bratt and Kempe, and then Eriksson Ek centering Raymond and Carlson. My fourth line right now I have extremely young Leo Carlson, Fabian Zetterlund, and William Eklund, with Michael Backlund as the extra. Evan, who's your decor?
Oh, thanks for asking. So I have Victor Hedman with Forsling, Rasmus Dahlin with Rasmus Anderson, Brodin with Ekholm, and then I have Erik Karlsson on the bench.
You also have another extra defenseman.
Oh, okay. Disclaimer for everybody. I only added Rasmus Sandin so Sophie would shut up. She was harassing me.
Well, you need to add an extra player.
Top 3 Swedish defensemen allegedly on this team.
Of this season. For this season.
And it made him happy, but I wouldn't have put him if I wasn't pressured. Send help.
I asked for an extra player, bro. You could put anyone.
I know, but I just wanted to, make the fans happy. And since no one watches the videos, it's you.
So unnecessary.
That's what I was going to tell you before the podcast, and I was like, no, I'm going to save this.
All right. Actually, name your extra players, by the way. Just go off my Instagram post.
Okay.
I named him.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, but I have to ask you for it every time.
I said Karlsson, but then I forgot I added Sandin because I have my original roster.
You said Karlsson after we told you to say Karlsson. I'm saying for the flow of the podcast, bro. Ober, who's your defense?
All right. On defense, I've got...
I'm going to name my goalies now.
All right. On defense, I've got Victor Hedman with Rasmus Dahlin. I've got Gustav Forsling with Erik Karlsson. I've got Matthias Ekholm with Rasmus Andersson. And then my 2 extras are Rasmus Sandin and Hampus Lindholm.
Okay. For defense, the only pairing that I really think is going to be concrete is Hedman Dahlin, just because Dahlin has experience playing on his off wing. But I have Forsling with Carlson, and then Sandin with Anderson, and Brodin and Ekholm as the extras. Goalie wise, again, we have the exact same. Evan, who would you have as your starter at this point, without saying much of a?
I have Jacob Markstrom as my starter.
Omer?
I currently have Linus Ullmark.
Okay, so I think that's the first point of discussion is just goaltending. The thing is, I would say the same thing about the decor, whereas like they have 7 or 8 guys that could get playing time, and it can either be their strength or their weakness because it just depends on how they deploy them. Because all of them could play on the team and be fine, but at this point, it's just gonna be about chemistry and like figuring out who's gonna play well together. But goaltending, we each picked a different starter. So, Omer, why'd you pick Ullmark?
So I know Ullmark's been a bit weird this season. He's had his moments that was like really good, like that game against the Sharks when the Sens got 11 shots, and he saved like 40. But I think even though his consistency has been a bit off this year, over the last few years, his consistency has been there enough for me to be like, give it to him and see what he like. Markstrom's kind of been all over the place. For me, I think Phil Gustafsson is another option, but I thought I'll give it to Ullmark because he's really good in Boston. He came to Ottawa. He has done well in Ottawa. I think he's going to have a good defense in front of him and a good team in front of him, and he's proven to be good with a good team in front of him in Boston. So I think he can be steady back there with a team like Sweden.
Okay, fair enough. That's my thing. So Sweden's defense, I think, is going to be their strength. But Ottawa's team defense hasn't been bad this year, and Ullmark's still been bad. Like, aside from that San Jose game.
Yeah.
Ottawa's team defense kind of ranks in like the top 10 or 12 or something like that. Like, they're not giving up high quality chances like they have in past years. So the fact that Ullmark's still playing bad is just a bit of concern. And the same kind of goes for Markstrom, just because Devils have a good defense, but they play a more like high octane type of game where they trade chances. So I can understand why Markstrom's stats aren't as good. But Gustafsson, I don't know. Like at the end of the day, like Evan said earlier, like goalies are a bit different because you kind of just play the hottest guy and work from there, unless you have an outright starter. And it's like someone like the U.S. It's hard to start anyone other than Hellebuck because of how he's been the last like 5-6 years. But I think Sweden, you could see Gustafsson getting the first start if he continues to play the way that he has leading up to the actual tournament. And he's been absolutely insane this year. So if he stays hot, I say they give him the first start. And then the thing is, this is the one team where I could see each of their goalies getting a start in the round robin.
Yeah.
Evan, what was your reasoning for Markstrom?
While I think Ullmark maybe is the most skilled of the goalies, I think Markstrom has had up and down years, kind of like Bobrovsky does. Like, it's good, bad, but now kind of like is in the situation where he has probably the most competent defense core in front of him right now, and he's doing well. So, playing a guy who has decent stats this year and has more experience, like, I'm more of the sense of I don't love playing younger guys, even if they're doing well, just because they're young and have potential on National League teams. You want to play guys like that's why I had Backlund in my starting lineup, just because that's a guy that you can put out like in a defensive zone draw with a minute left and be like quite confident that that guy's going to do whatever he can do to win and has been there before. So to me, I just kind of went for a guy that's doing a little bit better right now out of the two kind of veteran guys, and just has had more experience in more kind of stressful situations.
Yeah. I think for me, the forwards, I kind of just, like, they have enough defensively responsible players on their team. So I kind of just wanted added scoring potential in their fourth line. Thing is, like, the line that I have of Eriksson, Ek, and Carlson with Raymond, I think is going to be more of their shutdown line with still potential to score with Raymond on their line. But, yeah, I don't know. I think goalie-wise, Gustafsson has just, like, 2 out of the last 3 years, he's put out better numbers than Markstrom and Ullmark, and he's definitely playing better than any of these 3 right now. But if I'm going to say anyone other than Gustafsson, it'd probably be Markstrom right now. I think Ullmark has the tendency to let in soft goals this year, and I think that's the scariest part. Because in these kinds of tournaments, like, you got to be... Those are the goals that you have to save no matter what, because you don't really have the option of the next game, right? Where I think Gustafsson and Markstrom are just steadier options right now. All right, should we move on to the big boys?
All right.
Say next.
Then you should start, Sufi.
Fair enough.
You're a big boy. We're small.
Yeah. I don't know how to respond to that. All right, we'll go with the U.S. first.
It was. He's 6'3". Leave me alone.
I didn't think of it like that.
And single.
All right.
Anyone's interested.
Yeah. I don't think any women are listening this far into the podcast, but you never know. So my forwards for the U.S. team. First line, I got Jack Hughes with Austin Matthews and Clayton Keller. Matthews is the center in that because Jack Hughes sucks at faceoffs. And then I got the 2 brothers, Tkachuk and Tkachuk, with Jack Eichel in the middle. And then my third line, I got Tage Thompson centering Alex DeBrincat and Jake Gensel. And then a fourth line with Dylan Larkin as the center for Boldy and Cole Caulfield, with my extras being Jason Robertson and Alex Tuck.
I have Matthews centering the Canucks. Do you not have Kyle Connor, Sufi?
Shit.
Wow. I have Kyle Connor with Eichel and Keller. Then I have Gensel with Jack Hughes and Robertson. Boldy with Trocheck and Larkin. My extra being Tage Thompson.
I have him in my notes team, and then I don't have him in my sheets team.
All right.
Well, we'll move on from that. We don't need to touch on that right this second. Go ahead, Omar.
I've got Matthews with Gensel and Keller. I've got Eichel with Tkachuk and Tkachuk. I've got Hughes with Thompson and Boldy. I've got Larkin with Caulfield and Connor. And then my extra is Jason Robertson.
Evan, did you say Brock Besser?
No, I took him off. Well, was that my extra?
Yes.
Yeah, he is your extra.
Okay, my extra, my late addition is Brock Besser.
Okay. I'm so annoyed. I was thinking, how do I have Alex Tuck on this team? Because I was debating between him and Kreider, and then I was just like, I'm definitely forgetting someone. Anyways, my defense is Hughes and McAvoy as the top pair, Slavin and Fox as the second pair, and then Werenski and Faber as the third pair with John Carlson as the extra. Evan?
I have Fox and McAvoy, Quinn Hughes, just to specify which Hughes, and Slavin with Werenski and Hanifin with John Carlson as my extra.
I've got Quinn Hughes and Charlie McAvoy. I've got Zach Werenski and Adam Fox, Hanifin and Faber, and then my 2 extras are Jake Sanderson and John Carlson.
Okay. Again, for goalies, this one, I feel like the only real discussion for goalies is Canada, but we'll entertain it. Hellebuck, Ottinger, and Swayman, all 3 of us have them.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on a limb and say everyone has Hellebuck as their starter.
I have Swayman as my third option, which I assume everyone else has, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have Swayman as third option. I think Omar didn't at first because he forgot about Ottinger. I wish I sent him my team so he could remind me about Kyle Connor, but I have Kyle Connor on my fantasy team, bro. I'm so annoyed.
Hey, we all make mistakes.
Full disclosure, Alex Tuck is not on his team. I'd have Kyle Connor, and then with Larkin and Boldy, and then Caulfield is my extra. But now it's already posted on Instagram, so it is what it is. I told you guys to check your rosters without checking mine. Anyways, what
I'm surprised you didn't notice because you made the post and you put Connor in for me and Evan.
Bro, the thing is, I had to pick my extra player, right? And I was like, there's no way this is between like the players that I had like as the extras, like Tuck, Besser, Kreider, etc. Because I was like, I definitely had more options than this before. Anyways, it is what it is. Like I mean, Kyle Connor is making this team, and I would have him on my team. But unless you made it this far into the podcast, I look like an absolute doofus. So,
Hey, no, Sufi, you look like a doofus always. Don't say that.
All right, Bull Seaman, bro, Bull Seaman boy. No, let's talk about this roster, bro.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot.
So the most interesting thing about this team is definitely line combinations. I think the one thing every other team doesn't have is this a semblance of brothers. Like Hughes.
Where's Nick Robertson?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And Alex Nylander for Sweden, who knows? But obviously Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes aren't going to be on the same line together, but they're going to be on the ice together a lot because Quinn's going to be playing a lot. But Tkachuk and Tkachuk on a line, I think, is going to be crazy. One's the power forward, one's the skill guy who's annoying and over the top. And then the center of them, I think, is going to be the biggest discussion, whether it's Matthews, Eichel, could be Tage Thompson, could be Jack Hughes for all we know. But how do you guys see that working with the Tkachuk brothers? Do you think that it's guaranteed that they're going to be on the same line?
I think they will.
It's fun and would be a fun storyline. I think you probably don't put Austin Matthews with them because that's a lot of shots on one line. I would assume it's Jack Hughes or Eichel. Eichel being kind of like a strong, steady, good skating center, and then Jack Hughes kind of being the little water bug with a big guy next to him, and then another skill guy. So I think one of those makes more sense than anything else.
I like Hughes with Matthews a lot. I don't know. No, Hughes with Matthews also just makes sense because Hughes.
But then Tkachuk can also take face-offs for Hughes,
and that's fair. But I think that Hughes with Matthews just makes sense to me because Hughes is similar in the way of that Marner plays, but Hughes is better, if you know what I'm saying. He has the ability to score on a more consistent basis than Marner. So I think that just translates well. I think all of us have Keller with Matthews as well.
Yeah.
Not Evan. Wait.
Evan has the Tkachuks with Matthew.
Yeah. So I think the reason I have Keller with Matthews is, again, the familiarity there. I think they practice together in the summer or something, and they have this very lovey-dovey relationship.
Like us.
Sure. Notable omissions on Evans is definitely the small guys, but I think that kind of is in line with what you usually think. So there's no real thing against that. I think Trocheck is an interesting one for you.
So with a few different for example, on Sweden's defense when Sufi was yelling at me, I went for. So for example, on Sweden, they have puck movers, guys that can play power play, whatever already. So I was going for you already have that sort of player, so go for someone a little bigger, a little meaner, who maybe will injure Connor McDavid. I don't know. And then so in this scenario, a lot of those guys, yes, Matthews is good defensively, and they have other guys, but to me, Trocheck's had a good few strong years in a row, and is more responsible than other players that could be in that position. So for me, I could have gone something different, but in my head, I wouldn't play Tage Thompson on a fourth line. That's a guy that I'd want higher up in my lineup, and maybe he would end up in somewhere there. But so to me, I just kind of wanted someone who can kind of play that Backlund role. Surprise, I have Nick Suzuki for Canada. I wanted him there because I think he, and with Konechny, guys that kind of can contribute offensively still, but can play kind of a different role and seem like they're happy to do that instead of just those super high octane kind of puck mover scoring guys.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think that the thing with the U.S. and Canadian rosters, which is a little bit different, is they have so many different options offensively. They can kind of tailor the back half of their team for matchups a little bit more. That's why guys like Tuck, Kreider, Trocheck, etc. are even being considered. And on Canada, I personally wouldn't have Tom Wilson on my team, but the fact that he was in the discussion is for these kinds of reasons where you have enough guys that are going to score, so you want guys that bring a different element. But for me, the reason that I don't have that for the US with and adding guys like DeBrincat and Caulfield, I think that their top end players already bring more of that than, let's say, Canada.
Yeah.
Like guys like Matthews, Eichel, the Kachucks, Boldy, Dylan Larkin. Like these guys, they bring a more defensive style in terms of superstar forwards, and like a more of like a forechecking style. Where the Canadian forwards like McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, not as much. So that's why I felt a little bit more comfortable putting guys like DeBrincat and Caulfield in there. I also think it's hard to leave, especially Caulfield, off. I think he's going to get left off, but I think just based off the way that he's played this year, I think it would be a tough omission to not have Caulfield there.
I think Caulfield will probably be left off of the actual team. Yeah. I do think. I think they're going to pick people over him.
This D-core is absolutely insane.
Yeah. Honestly, just looking at this,
like,
and that power play is going to be like...
Power play is going to be gross. This, if I'm, without my bias in this, like, I know it's hard to get past McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon.
The U.S. has the best roster.
The U.S. top to bottom has the best roster. Like, Hughes, McAvoy, Slavin, Fox, Werenski, and then if you have Faber, Carlson, Evan, you have Hannafin. You both have Hannafin. Like any combination of those defensemen is absolutely insane. With Hellebuck as your goalie, or Ottinger, or Swayman, like it's an embarrassment of riches for the U.S. right now.
Yeah,
and it's going to be embarrassing when they lose to us.
I really hope so.
I hope so.
We're gonna, all of our superstars are gonna have to really, really play this year, because this is definitely the best U.S. team that we've ever seen by a considerable margin. Like this is better than the 2010 Olympic team, for sure.
Yeah.
They had Ryan Whitney on that team. Come on.
Zach Parise was one of their best players. So
he was.
Let's move on to Canada, and then we can kind of discuss both of these two in comparison, because I think it's pretty obvious that they're the favorites. So we can start with Omer for this one. Forwards for Canada.
Sure. So I've got McDavid with Reinhart and Hyman. I've got McKinnon with Point and Hagel. I've got Crosby with Marner and Marchand. I've got Tavares with Konechny and Verhaeghe, and my two extras are Stamkos and Bedard.
Evan?
I have Sam Reinhart with McDavid and Marner. I have Braden Point with McKinnon and Crosby. I have Marchand with Suzuki and Konechny. Then I have Lafreniere, Scheifele, and Stone, with an extra of Bedard. And someone I don't remember.
Tavares,
yes. Yes, I added him late because I need another one. And I think
we'll talk about it.
He's been there before.
Yes. We'll talk about it, Evan. My forwards are, I got McDavid centering Verhaeghe and Reinhart, McKinnon centering Hagel and Point, Crosby centering Marchand and Konechny, and then the fourth line of Duchesne, Tavares, and Marner, with Nick Suzuki as the extra. Omer, your defense.
On defense, I've got Taves with Makar. I've got Theodore with Pietrangelo, Uyghur with Hamilton, and my extra is Evan Bouchard.
Evan.
I have Makar, Taves, Dobson, Bouchard, Pietrangelo, Morrissey, with an extra of Shea Theodore.
I've got Taves and Makar as the first pair, Harley and Hamilton as the second pair, Theodore and Uyghur as the third pair, and then Sanheim and Bouchard as the extras. With goaltending, again, for the fourth in a row, we have the exact same goalies. Logan Thompson, Jordan Binnington, and Aiden Hill. Omer, who is your starter as of right now?
As of right now, it's Aiden Hill.
Evan?
It's kind of a toss-up. It's between Hill and Binnington. Binnington has been pretty solid recently. Aiden Hill, I think, is currently the best of the goalies. And then Logan Thompson is hanging out, go Washington, all that. I would lean Aiden Hill if I was picking right now. So that's what I'll go with.
For me, it's a toss-up between Hill and Thompson. I think stats-wise, Thompson beats both of these two in the last 2 years. Just in terms of like the ability to play games and stuff like that. But Hill in a short tournament setting could be playoff Aiden Hill where we had that run. So I do think he ends up getting the start with Logan Thompson as a backup and Binnington making the team because his GM is Doug Armstrong.
Yeah.
So a couple things I want to say first. Sanheim and Konechny are only on my team because I saw reports that they've already been announced. So I originally did not have them there.
You had no Konechny.
No Konechny, no Sanheim. I originally had Seth Jarvis instead of Konechny. But Konechny and Sanheim both got stick taps at practice for making the Four Nations roster. So it was a bit of a... Sanheim is the interesting one. I don't think he ends up playing.
He's a big defenseman. That's good.
I just don't think he ends up playing. I think it's more of like a, if we need him, we'll play him kind of thing. And they are going to carry defensemen, so...
I didn't have Marchand on my team until I realized that he was already announced as well.
I wouldn't have had Marchand on my team if he wasn't already announced.
Yeah,
I think on our original first rosters, Evan didn't have Marchand either. Like the first time that we made the teams, and it's fair.
I didn't have him. I didn't have him, and then I saw that him, Crosby, and I can't remember who else, but like 2 or 3 or 4 guys were back in the summer already, like announced.
Yeah, it was McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, Marchand, Carr.
Yeah.
And
so I was like, okay, Marchand's gonna fit in here somewhere.
It might be those 2 guys. The thing is, Canada has a lot more similar options.
The thing with
Canada is,
the thing with Canada is that the difference between the Canadian and the US team is that the US team does have a lot of that fresh talent that we haven't really seen in the last 15 years. The thing with Team Canada is that you have this dichotomy of like, okay, you're fresh young guys, and the obvious ones are obviously McDavid, McKinnon, and stuff like that, and Makar and these guys. But then you've also got these guys who've been around in the last 15 years and won gold in 2010, won gold in 2014, won the championship in 2016. And, guys like Crosby, Marchand, Steven Stamkos, John Tavares, whoever else is around. So it's like, who do you pick based on experience? Who do you pick based on fresh talent? And how do you do a mixture of both is something
they've already done Marchand based off experience. So
exactly, but no, I'm talking about when we were building our team. So like when I was building my team, I was like, who do I want to pick based on like, okay, he's old now, but he was around for these big things that Canada won.
So one thing that I got from the Team Canada like brass, what they were talking about is like cohesion of players. Yeah. So they kind of wanted guys that already played together, which is a big reason why guys had Hyman on their original rosters. I know you still do, but I'm saying like just in general. So I tried to bring as many pairs as possible that without ruining without leaving really obvious guys like Kyle Connor off. So like Verhaeghe, Reinhart, I want to keep together, play with McDavid. I think that's just a great fit. Hagel and Point, I think, is one that, they play together, and then having McKinnon as your center would be electric. But then the last one, Tavares, I literally only have on this team because of Marner. I think that I know they don't play as regularly as they used to in Tavares' 47 goal year. But just the fact that they have familiarity playing together with a guy like
together right now.
Yeah, well, they have to with Matthews coming back from injury. But like, I think Duchesne for me, I think is someone that has kind of just like quietly had an absolutely insane couple of years, not just this year. And I don't know. I feel like he's kind of getting omitted off rosters, and he's probably going to get left off the team too. But I think he's a really important player, and I think he could bring some added scoring to this team from the bottom of the lineup. But it doesn't look like they're going to have him on there. So,
yeah, I honestly didn't ever think of Duchesne.
Yeah,
I'm more curious
as well.
Like my extras, I'm actually very curious if they actually crack the roster. I think Stamkos is going to crack the roster in real life. I don't know if Bedard's going to crack it or not, but I'm very curious to see if one or both those guys make the team in real life.
I feel like Stamkos is going to make it. I think this year has, like, if he got off the hearts, I think he'll
make it just based off his like legacy and whatnot. But I don't know.
The thing is they have enough legacy picks on their team at this point, so
yeah,
it would be. I don't know if they're going to do that again. That's the biggest thing for me too. Is also like the defense with Pietrangelo. I just think that Hamilton is better, and that's why I have him there. But I could also see someone like Tanev cracking the team. I did consider him. But I think it's going to be either one of him or Uyghur. I don't think it's going to be both.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the team. I don't think we are as deep as the States, but
We got McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, and that's
we
kind
got
of where...
McKinnon and Crosby. Yeah.
One thing I think I forgot to mention about the U.S., it's going to be interesting to see what happens with JT Miller.
Yeah.
No one knows why he's like on personal leave, so it could be something very serious. But if there's any remote chance that he's available, like I think that there's no question he's going to be on the U.S. roster. It's just like, is he going to be available? He could be someone that I think that they initially make available for the team, like they pick him, and then there's going to be like a late replacement or something like that. Because the U.S., like JT Miller makes that team.
He does. Does he have kids or something?
Yeah, he has kids. He has like 2 or 3 kids.
Okay, I wonder if something is up with his kids and that's why he's on personal leave, like health reasons or whatnot.
It's got to be something family related, right? Like at this point, but and it's nothing to do with his own personal health. Like there's no like inclination of it being potentially what's the player assistance program? Like it doesn't. He's not involved in that at all. So I think that can be ruled out. But the thing is, that's what I'm saying. Like it's a similar thing with Laine, where if he was going to be remotely close to available, he's going to be on the team. I think the U.S. doesn't leave JT Miller off the team unless it's for certain that he's not going to be playing.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know what else to say. I mean, like there is the problem too with a lot of the fringe players. They haven't really performed as well as they have in past years. Like Verhaeghe isn't off to the greatest of starts. Hyman obviously isn't playing as well as he did last year. So guys like Lafreniere, Tavares, Konechny, etc. I think it's kind of opened the door for them to potentially make this team. Nick Suzuki, I think, is the most interesting one. Me and Evan have him on there, but Evan, you want to speak to Nick Suzuki? I think you have him on the third line.
I wish I could speak to him. I don't have his number.
You can go to a Luke Combs concert. You can meet him there.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I really like my third line, kind of what I was saying earlier, like Marchand, Suzuki, and Konechny. That's just a super kind of annoying, responsible, gritty, even if they're not the biggest players, line to play against. And I think with the luxury that Canada has when they have Makar, McDavid, McKinnon, Reinhart, like guys that are going to score. Like, I don't know how many games are in total for each team, but if, let's say, they played 8 games, those guys could have 20 plus points each, hypothetically. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility. So having kind of a line that seems like that they could have the identity of just like, we're going to try to shut down the Austin Matthews line or the Jack Hughes line or whatever, and kind of thanks to be able to be good at that, I think he could play a big role in being a really responsible center that can kind of grow into being in future Canada teams as well.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I think they're definitely going to have some turnover here from this tournament into the Olympics, because Crosby isn't going to be playing that much longer. So it's going to be McDavid and McKinnon's teams, and guys like Suzuki and Bedard, etc., are going to have to step up in the coming years. I think we're going to have to move on now because we've been talking about this for a while. But I did have one short thought exercise. Russia, obviously not playing in this. I did make like a mock team, and I want to see your guys' thoughts on like how they would kind of compete against these teams. So I have Panarin, Malkin, and Kucherov as the first line. Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Kaprizov as the second line. Svechnikov, Nemesnikov, and Buchnevich as the third line. Michkov, Shibachev, who plays in Russia. He's one of the leading scorers in Russia. Ivan Barbashev, rounding out the fourth line. And then Valenchushkin and Marchenko as the extra players. And then on defense, this is where it gets dicey because they're like all left-handed, except for one. Sergachev and Zadorov as the first pair, Orlov and Provorov as the second pair, Gavrikov and Kulikov as the third pair, Artem Zub as the extra. And then the goaltending, Shesterkin, Sorokin, Vasilevsky, and you could throw in Bobrovsky in there somewhere as well. How do we think
trade with Canada? Where we get a goalie?
all four goalies the switch? Where do we think this team would kind of do we think they'd be better than Finland?
I think this team has the potential to beat both kind of Nordic countries.
Yeah.
Even like that's a team like yes, some of their best players are quite old. And a lot of their centers specifically are old or aren't that good or as good as they were at some point. But, having Kaprizov and Panarin and, like, there's spectacular players. And, like, their goaltending, you could argue, is better than the States. That there's an argument there to be had. That's a team that, I don't know if they win the tournament.
Yeah.
But they could wind themselves up in the finals. Like, that's not crazy to think.
With the goaltending and the scoring, yeah. Thing is, this winger core, their centers suck. Malkin, Kuznetsov, Nemesnikov, Shipachyov is I don't even understand how that happened, where they just had a severe lack of centers. But the wingers, left wing, Panarin, Ovechkin, Svechnikov, Michkov, Nichushkin, and then right wing, Kucherov, Kaprizov, Buchnevich, Barbashev, and Marchenko. The only winger, set of wingers that really compares to that is the U.S. for me. I think those wingers, top to bottom, are better than Canada.
Yeah.
The defense is a weird one. They're all just really big and left-handed.
Yeah, not spectacular. kind of Finland-esque.
Yeah. The players are fine. It's just a whole lot of obs. Provorov, Orlov, Kulikov, Gavrikov, and Zadorov. None of those guys are lower than 6'2", by the way. But yeah.
I don't think this team would be that good.
I think they'd be better than Finland, potentially better than Sweden.
Maybe, better than Finland, sure, but
they could come last or they could come second. I have no idea. That's a team where it's like Finland. If they were in the finals, I'd be impressed. Where the team is it's possible. Kaprizov and Panarin, you could argue those guys this season are doing as well as almost any other team's two best forwards.
Kucherov has a similar amount of point as well.
Yeah, and Kucherov, sorry, yeah.
But Kucherov, of course, yeah.
But that's what the top four, but even bias if you want, Ovechkin is top 5 in goal scoring as well. Every single one of those wingers is playing well, and they're also just insane. Yeah. It's just, I think that counteracts their center core a little bit. Nemestikov is your third center is kind of crazy, and Kuznetsov is on the team. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just an interesting thought experiment. I tried to make a team for the Czechs, and then I had their decor as Ruda, Hronik, Spacek, Gudis, Alsher, Jurasek, and Kral, and I was okay, I don't think this is as much of a thought experiment. But yeah. Let's move on. Funky stat of the week. Oh no, injury updates. So I'll do funky stat of the week first. So NHL has their tracking data for the fastest players, slowest players, etc. And for offense, for forwards, it's pretty consistent when you look at speed bursts above 20 miles per hour and speed bursts above 22 miles an hour. The top guys are McKinnon and McDavid. But the top speed total, just the guy that one time reached the top speed, I want you guys to take a guess as who is number one in that.
He's an active player?
Yeah, it's this season. It's the most random player, and he's not going to be a star, which is why this is a funky stat.
Do I know him to be fast?
I didn't. I'll give a hint. He plays on the team that arguably the fastest player in the league plays on. Edmonton.
Zach Hyman.
Vasily Podkolzin. No, wait. It's Janmark.
Yep. Janmark had the top speed between forwards and defensemen with 24.4 miles an hour. Yeah. And the top for defensemen, Jacob Slavin. with Jake McCabe second.
What?
So obviously, like, the consistently fast players is the more important thing, but like the fact that Slavin, McCabe, and Janmark reached the top like 3 highest speeds at one point is insane to me. So yeah, that is my whatchamacallit, funky stat of the week. For injury updates, Patrick Laine is obviously back today. That's probably the biggest one. Hampus Lindholm is week to week. Leo Carlson's day to day. Other important ones, Kochetkov just got injured. He has a concussion.
No, he's healthy again.
Yeah, but he's saying return to practice Monday.
He's
I don't
playing
know.
tonight.
Okay, well, there's your injury update. Ross Colton just got moved to long-term injured reserve, but it's retroactive, so he's probably going to be back within the next 5 games. Jonathan Drouin, there's just no update. I think Evan has kind of been a victim of this in his fantasy team. He's literally just listed as out.
He was injured, played 4 games, had 4 points, and then was gone.
Yeah, and there's literally no update as to what's happening there. So Tyler Seguin is on injured reserve, but estimated return date is the 12th. Zach Hyman is also out 5 to 8 days. That was last week, so he's probably close to return near the end of the week. Sergei Bobrovsky's out. Drew Doughty is looking to return in the new year, and there's just
not
an update.
Good for Sufi's fantasy team.
Yeah, not ideal, but he's aiming to come back by January. But honestly, it's actually fine for my fantasy team because the longer he stays out, the better it is for Brent Clark. But he's still out for a while. Ovechkin was skating after 2 weeks and looks on track to return by the end of December. Artem Zub on the November 26th was placed on LTIR. David Perron's day-to-day, is there any updates on that?
I think he was technically healthy scratch. Like, maybe his conditioning wasn't up because he missed a bit of time because there's complications with one of his kids' health. So he came back, played like 1 or 2 games, and then was healthy scratch. So maybe it's just conditioning, or he's back with his family or something. Something along those lines.
Fair. Someone was moved to LTIR. Who was it? Oh, Jordan Eberle. Jordan Eberle was moved to LTIR. He's not looking to be back until February. Ryan Reeves, not an injury update, but he's looking to be back from suspension. Either back to his 5 minutes a night or the press box. Max Domi is close to coming back. I think December 4th is the hopeful date. Thatcher Demko, same update as last week. He's making strides. Should be back early to mid-December. Philip Hronek is also around the same timeline. And yeah, that's all the... Nikolai Ehlers just got put on IR, and there's no real timetable for his return. But yeah, those are the main injury updates. All right. Let's move on to the head-to-head. This is my week this week. And if you guys remember, this was one of our first head-to-heads. We included 3 players, but I'm going to include 2 players. And 2 players, 1 on each of your teams. Defensemen. And they're both having career years, but their point totals aren't reflective of it. They're just playing better. Morgan Rielly and Thomas Chabot. Who would you rather have on your team right now?
Well, how he's playing, Thomas Chabot looks freaking great. I don't know if it's the system change or him just working well with Nick Jensen or him just being healthy. I don't think he's missed games this year. Like, there was years where he'd missed like a few games, like 4 separate times throughout the year. Jake Sanderson hasn't looked as good as he has been, or even at the beginning of the year he looked good and then kind of off the rails a little bit. So for me, because I'm not going to pick even though he's dating or married to Tessa Virtue, and that's pretty cool.
Married.
It's crazy. I'm gonna go with Thomas Chabot. He's bilingual. He's nice.
Bilingual.
He's a good skater, a great skater even, and he plays for the best Ontario-based hockey team.
All right, Ummer, what's your rebuttal? Or do you agree?
No, I don't agree. Well, okay, so here's.
I thought there was a shot. I thought there was a potential there. Fair enough.
No, so like I would say, I will concede that I think Thomas Chabot is a better skater. Sure, fine. I do think that what is missing for me in understanding what Chabot brings is because I haven't seen him ever play a playoff game. And on defense, Riley has generally performed well for the Leafs in the limited playoff time they've seen. So, he was a massive part of the one series win they actually have against Tampa a couple of years ago. And he's someone.
By that logic, Devontae Smith-Pelly should be in this conversation.
Damn right.
No, I mean, on the other thing is that while they both got pretty badly, let's say embarrassed by Edmonton players, at least Riley got embarrassed by the best in the world, and Chabot got embarrassed by Evan Bouchard. So I go with Morgan Riley. Also, I think people will pick Chabot though because he's 3 years younger, and he's.
We're talking right now. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, we're talking right now, and Omar talked about playoff series 2 years ago. That's
I mean, he still he performs in the playoffs.
All right.
Sophie?
So, their point totals are very close. One has 13 points, the other has 14. And we all know when everything is close, what does Sufi turn to? Analytics. And
I don't think point totals matter for that. I could be in the NHL and have 100 points so far, but if I had like a bad, I don't even know, XAQW times percentage, you'd be like, this guy sucks.
Depends on the player. I'm not going to really care about Kucherov's defensive analytics. Anyways, defensively, I don't really care about these two guys. Like they're both offensive-minded defensemen. But both are having their best defensive year of their careers, which is interesting, and they're very close in that regard. The difference is one of these guys drives offense considerably better than the other guy, and that guy is Thomas Chabot. And for that reason, I'm going to pick Thomas Chabot. I think that Chabot playing less has helped him quite a lot. He's playing like 4 minutes less than he has on his career average. And to be fair, Riley also is playing less comparatively than past years. And I think that's why both these guys have seen improved performance. But my main thing with Chabot was just the unnecessary turnovers and mistakes and stuff. But that's kind of evened out a little bit more in this game because he's had, later in games, you're not as tired and you're less prone to those kinds of plays. And I think that's really showed in Chabot's usage this year. And just in general, Chabot's definitely a better skater. Playmaking wise, probably similar passers, but I think Chabot has the ability to create at a better rate than Morgan Riley does. I think Riley might be a better stretch passer, but I think when we're talking in zone, I can see Chabot skating around, trying to find open players. Where I think Morgan Riley is more of a product of his offensive players like Marner, Matthews, Nylander, etc. But yeah, I think Chabot this year. It takes a lot for me to say that considering I've hated on him for a long time, but I think I have been pretty adamant about him playing too much. And the fact that he's playing less and he's playing better, I think goes along with kind of what I've been saying the last couple of years. So we're going to pick Chabot 2-1.
Chabot sucks.
If you ask 2023 Sufi, you'd probably say the same thing. All right. Let's go to our fantasy player to trade for or pick up. for the past week. So going into this week, I'm going to say a player that Evan already mentioned, Nick Schmaltz. He's currently 25% owned or 20%, 24% owned in Yahoo. And I feel like that was mostly attributed to his goal total. But, 3 goals in the past week. He's also shot like considerably more in the past week. He has 5-5-3. He has 14 shots in the last week. And he only has 55 on the year. So I think he's kind of figured out something there. And 24% owned or 23% owned is absolutely insane for him. So I think if he's available in your league, definitely should be picked up. Evan?
I have Holmstrom on the Islanders. I go for a little bit obscure players because I'm thinking bigger leagues, maybe someone who is almost guaranteed to be a free agent. He's had back-to-back 2-goal games for the Islanders. Do I think he's going to keep that up for the rest of the year? Probably not. So could be a guy that maybe gets you a couple points for your matchup this week or next week, and then you can move on to my pick next week.
He is 2% owned in Yahoo leagues. He scored a nasty goal against Washington, bro. His shot is very good for a guy that's a bottom 6 player.
Mm-hmm.
Homer?
Mine is a
Connor
guy that
McDavid.
Sorry?
Connor McDavid.
You said Stolars last week, and he was like 82% owned.
Yeah, well, that's because I didn't have one last week.
All right, fair.
This week I'm going Ryan Donato.
All right.
He's like 11% owned or something on Yahoo. He's a pretty sneaky pickup, and he's been playing well.
He is 19% owned.
Sorry, not 11, 19%.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a good source of shots and hits. And he has 10 goals.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly, yeah.
Fair enough. Oh, Evan has him. Didn't realize that. Okay, let's move on. Evan, your stat game.
Woo! All right. So, the stat that I'm asking you this week.
Evan, do you want me to do the timer?
Sure. Maybe a little skewed. Depending on, because it's a little early. So, I have the top 10 list, but you only need the top 5. Of the 5 goalies who have just faced the most shots so far this season.
I think Lucas Dostal is up there.
That is incorrect.
Hellebuck?
That is number 3.
Okay.
Shesterkin?
Yeah.
That is number 2.
Okay. Think of goalies that just are outright starters on their team. No
Hill?
tandems.
Eden Hill? Actually, no. Wait a second.
He splits time with Samsonov. Yeah. Saros.
Saros is number 1.
Okay. Who else? Markstrom?
Could be.
Yeah. Markstrom?
That is incorrect.
How about Vasilevsky?
Okay. That is incorrect.
Bobrovsky.
That is also incorrect.
Gonna run out of goalies, bro. LA, no. Mini, no. Oh, Jake Ottinger?
That is incorrect.
Oh my god, who else are starters?
Decord?
That is incorrect.
Peter Mrazek.
Peter Mrazek is number 4.
Nice. Okay.
One more.
I don't think it'd be any of the Leaf goalies because they haven't had enough games.
Nah, they haven't.
Montembeau?
That is incorrect.
Allmark?
Skinner?
That is incorrect.
Which one?
Allmark, that's the other one I heard.
Skinner?
Skinner is also incorrect.
Oh god. Lankinen?
Nope.
Seelovs.
Nope.
We have 1 minute left.
Who's the Avalanche goalie right now?
Georgiev?
Yeah, Gorgiev.
Bro, what are the other teams in the NHL?
Rajvalka?
Nope.
Ingram.
Nope.
Stollards.
Nope.
This last answer is going to piss me off, I swear. Sorokin.
Nope.
Markstrom?
You already said that.
Fuck.
Who's been playing a lot for Vancouver right now?
I already said Lankinen and Seelovs.
Lankinen.
I said both. 20 seconds. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Kochetkov?
Nope.
Merzlikins? It's not Thompson or Lindgren. I know that. It's not a Pittsburgh goalie. Oh, Erson.
Nope.
This is gonna piss me off.
Evan wins.
What's the last one?
Guys, you're missing Team Canada starter Jordan Binnington.
Oh my god. I couldn't think of like just another starting goalie.
I know.
Like an outright starter. That makes sense though. That pissed me off.
Hey, game's a game.
Yeah, that was a good one. All right. One positive, one negative, one standout player for our own teams. Evan, who's your one positive, not your player. One positive thing about your team in the last week.
We won a game we shouldn't have, so I guess that's kind of a win.
Which one was that?
The 11-shot game?
Oh, the San Jose one. Okay.
Yeah, we had 11 shots. They had like 39 or something.
That is insane.
And, yeah, like, not a good game. Wasn't happy about it, but we won. But sometimes we outplay the other team and lose, so I guess I'll take it. So, yeah, I mean, like, last year we got 0 points on that California road trip, so 3 is an improvement, so we'll take it.
Fair enough. Omer, one positive about the Leafs in the last week. Not playing,
Our
one positive.
goalie tandem of Stolars and Wool. Love it. I cannot remember the last time Leafs goaltending was this good, and I was this confident about them. Both goalies playing great. They're both getting their starts. They're both performing. I can't complain. I haven't seen a better tandem for the Leafs in my life, I don't think.
Fair enough. For me, it's the fact that our scoring has gone back up. We had 2 games, like the first 2 games after Ovi got hurt, we only had 1 and 2 goals. But every single game since then has been either 4 or more in the in our last 4 games. So it's nice to see production being throughout the lineup rather than reliant on one player. And it's not like it was like that throughout the season, but I think when a guy like that gets hurt, as how hot as he was, like we had 4 goals versus the Panthers, 5 goals versus the Lightning, 5 versus the Islanders, and 6 versus the Devils. And they were all wins as well. So that is definitely my positive. One negative, Evan. It can also be the San Jose game if you want.
Something I was talking about with friend of the show, Brendan Murray, is the Senators, yes, have less chances against and everything. But it's a lot of off the glass and out and dumping and chasing again, which was a problem with DJ Smith, especially for a team where a lot of our best players, like Chabot, Giroux, Batherson, Norris, aren't overly physical or overly big guys. And so you see these other teams, we flip it out back to their team over and over and over. We kind of get hemmed into our zone, and they just cycle it and keep it when we're dumping it in and kind of trying to win 50-50 battles, which is kind of frustrating. And that is, I think, why some of the reason we're getting so outshot some games or so outplayed is because we get the puck back, and then it's right. And so, like, for example, Clevin, Chabot, Stützle take some more time, kind of circle back. But some guys like Sanderson or other people are just rushing it, trying to get it off the glass and out, down, whatever, and kind of almost like ruining the possession we could have, which is somewhat frustrating. And that's just kind of been something I've been picking up on more and more lately.
Fair enough.
Yeah, the NHL is getting more and more, it has been for a while, a possession game. So I think the dump and chase only takes you so far anymore. Negative for the Leafs, injuries. I'm just going to say injuries. Matthews been out for a while. He's back now, thank God. It seems every other game there's someone going down. Nyes is back now, but McCabe's out. Woll was out before. So we've had a bit of we have like 3 or 4 guys from the minors coming up, and they're playing well. They're doing good. But yeah, injuries are the annoying part right now.
Fair enough. For the Caps, has been just the tendency to have like a bad period in our last 4 games. Like we did win all 4 of those games, but aside from the Florida game where we won 4-1, it's been 5-4, 5-4, and 6-5. Like, they're high scoring, and like it's a good thing that we were able to score all those goals, but there's just been the tendency to have, like, I think Evan was talking about the Sens where it's just like 2 minutes and they'd let up like 2 or 3 goals. Like, we've had stretches like that in our last 3 games, but luckily we've been able to score our way out of it. But ideally we can get rid of those bad stretches to make it a little bit easier for us. Evan, your standout player for the last week?
I mean, try not to beat a dead horse, but, well, what a white person saying. But, I'll beat it. And that player's Tim Stützle. Okay. And, he's been so phenomenal. Like, genuinely, his progression's been so noticeable. He's skating like the wind. He looks like he tries and gives a shit every opportunity he gets. He's hitting everything. He's scoring goals. He's getting 3 assists, it seems like, every other game. He's just trying to do everything he can to win, and it's very noticeable that he cares and wants to win.
He potentially makes a Team Germany if there is one, so...
Potentially.
I'm joking, bro. I'm joking. It's literally him and Draisaitl, so...
And Peterka.
And Jochen Heck.
And Seider.
4. Grubauer?
Yeah. I guess.
I mean, someone has to play goalie. Omer, your standout player.
With all the injury plaguing the Leafs, I'm going to give some love to, a rookie / very young guy coming in on a temporary basis and doing well. I'm going to say Fraser Minten. Huh?
Grubenkin or whatever?
Grubenkin also good. Yeah, he's good. He's been fun to watch.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
Back check, forecheck, paycheck.
He has so many quotes, and he's played for like a week.
I'm going to go Fraser Minten because he's 20 years old. He's going to definitely be sent down as soon as players come back from injury. He doesn't have to go through waivers, so it's a pretty easy decision in that sense. But man, 4 points in 5 games, 2 goals, 2 assists. He's done great. The young players have filled in how they needed to while the Leafs have battled injury. So my standout guy is going to be Fraser Minten.
Fair enough. For me, it's a guy that kind of got thrown into the fire here a little bit. Taylor Radish has been in our top 6 for the last 4 games. And, he's played top 6 minutes when he played in Chicago, but this year he's pretty much been on the 4th line with Dowd and Duhaime, and has been a very good 4th line, but he's been playing with either McMichael and Dubois or Strome and Protas. And he has 3 points in 4 games. And like a guy like that, he's probably going to get back to the 4th line when Ovechkin comes back, but or even when Milano comes back. But it's been nice to see him kind of flourish in a bit of more of a extensive role than he's been used to this year. So, that's pretty much all we have today.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning into our podcast. Be sure to check out Carlington Booch to get your kombucha and happy gut health sometime soon. We love you tuning into our podcast. We know we're not as exciting as, maybe like Talk Tua, or whatever kind of Hawk Tua things that everyone else gets up to nowadays. But we appreciate you listening to us regardless. And you can check us out on the following platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music,
Stitcher,
iHeartRadio, SiriusXM, Google Podcasts. Check us out on YouTube. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and X at The Unfortunate Diehards. We'll see you next time.